something many folks should be interested in, something that borders us as a people, as a nation, and something that borders the world globally. And what is that thing we will be disclosing today? It is none other than malaria. Yes, malaria. So I want to welcome all of you once again to this Superlative Superlife YouTube channel. And today we shall be discussing this beautiful topic. A lot of us claim we know a lot about malaria, yet most of us know little or nothing about malaria. And that is why we are recording the kind of figures we have in sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, sub-Saharan Africa tends to have more of the malaria burden. Why? Because it is on record that every 30 seconds, a child dies from malaria in sub-Saharan Africa. And that is why we here in Superlife, Nigeria, we deemed it fit that this kind of topic should be presented, represented, and people should get to watch it non-stop on a daily basis. So today we shall be going deep into today's topic. The burden of malaria is a global one. As a matter of fact, the WHO statistics for malaria in 2023 is very frightening. Yes, it is very, very frightening. As of 2022, the estimated figure was 249 million malaria cases, with 608,000 malaria deaths from 85 countries. So you can see how terrible this condition is. Now, majority of the malaria burden globally tends to be more in sub-Saharan Africa. As a matter of fact, sub-Saharan Africa accounts for 90% of all malaria cases. Yes, globally, sub-Saharan Africa. Now, if you look at the world map before us, and you look at the pink columns, you'll find out that the countries that lie north-south of the equator, with heavy rainfall, heavy temperature, heavy relative humidity, tends to have more of this burden. And for some of us who are from Nigeria, Nigeria as a country falls within this burden-based territory. So malaria is heavily prevalent in our country and in the world generally. And that is why we are looking at it. So let's look at our Nigerian scenario. Nigeria has the highest burden of malaria globally because it accounts for 27% of the global malaria burden. You can find this with the estimated figures that were released by WHO in 2023. Now, if Nigeria is accounting for 27% of the global malaria burden, it means as Nigerians, there's strong need for us to take this disease seriously. For a lot of people, they see it as a common thing that we should play and toil around with. Please don't. Malaria should not be toiled with. The map before us shows clearly the burden per states. If you look at the pink dots on the map before you, you are going to see they are not friendly at all. Almost every state in Nigeria has the disease. No wonder in Nigeria alone, malaria accounts for the highest number of deaths from day 1 to 5-year-old children. So you find more children dying from malaria, and malaria as a disease is topping the chart in Nigeria, accounting for more of the deaths we are recording in Nigeria. So please, this lecture is here to inform us so that our knowledge base will be so vast for us to begin to look at how best to protect ourselves and deal decisively with the disease. Now, the medical sector, they are doing their best to see how they reduce the malaria burden globally, especially here in Nigeria. The report that is coming out from 17 African countries, a survey that was done, especially with treatment using the seasonal malaria chemo prevention SMC, that was done in 17 African countries between 2012 and 2022. The WHO is doing its best, especially WHO African region is doing its best in order to reduce the malaria burden in Africa. So we as individuals, we as human beings should equally contribute our own quota in ensuring that the malaria burden in Africa is drastically reduced, if not completely eliminated. So many countries around the world have succeeded in eliminating the malaria burden in their countries. We too can do our part to get it out once and for all. Now, one thing we must get to understand is that malaria is transmitted by not the male mosquito. Please, let's take note. It is transmitted by the female mosquitoes. The ones that trouble us, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, is the Anopheles species. The Anopheles species. For those in the medical sector, they can count varied numbers of Anopheles species. Yes, it's not just one. Most times when you hear people, they tell you female Anopheles species. Yes, but there are so many species of the genus Anopheles. So in today's lecture, you'll be given the rare privilege of knowing the other species, yes, apart from the conventional way of saying Anopheles species. So you have the rare privilege of knowing the complete species. The one that plagued us here in Nigeria and in so many parts of the sub-Saharan Africa is the species called Anopheles gambier. Anopheles gambier. Yes. Apart from Anopheles gambier, we have other species of the genus Anopheles. We have Anopheles arabiensis, Anopheles dalingi, Anopheles funestus, Anopheles marajoara, Anopheles stephensi, Anopheles subpictus, and Anopheles sundiacus. Yes, their names sound so interesting. No wonder a lot of people will not bother themselves with the species. They just stop at Anopheles species. They have their reason for doing so, knowingly or unknowingly. Therefore, we in the medical world, there is need for us to know these different species, especially the one that affects us here in Nigeria, Anopheles gambier. Please, I want to reiterate this fact. It is only the female mosquito or the female vector that transmits malaria. So what that means in essence is that it is only the female mosquito that often goes for your blood. It's the only one that goes for blood meal. The male mosquito takes nectar, sweet juice from plants. That's his own source of meal. But for the female mosquito, the blood is its own meal. Now, one thing we must take note of in today's lecture is that apart from malaria, the Anopheles, the female Anopheles mosquito, now you know the name, especially the one that plagues Nigeria, Anopheles gambier, does not just transmit malaria alone, it can carry other diseases. Yes, it can carry other diseases like lymphatic filariasis and another disease we call the Unyong virus. So this particular vector, the Anopheles gambier, can carry parasites One of the parasites is the malaria we are talking about. Another parasite is what we call lymphatic filariasis. Then it can equally carry a virus. The virus is called the onion virus. Most of the pains in the joints that those who suffer from malaria go through, severe pains in the joints, please, analysis should be done. You might be so shocked, surprised to find out that a virus is responsible for those numerous pains. So it is a good thing that today we are getting to know that apart from malaria, our Anopheles species that is known to the common people, which we now know as Anopheles gandhi, can not only transmit malaria, they can as well transmit other diseases, parasites and viruses alike. Now, one thing we must take out from today's lecture is that when you look at a mosquito vector, it is quite interesting that the entire morphology, especially the mouth part of the vector, is so adapted for its kind of food, the blood. A lot of us, when we pick a mosquito vector and we look at it, the mouth part looks so straight, what we call the proboscis. But for some of us, we tend to do additional research work in zooming into the mouth part to understand the morphology of this particular vector. And in doing so, we come up, or the medical personnel have been able to come up with something very striking. Now, if you look at the diagram before you, you will see clearly how the mouth part, which we refer to as the proboscis, looks like. When a mosquito vector lands on your skin to take a blood meal, it does a lot of things on your skin. It does not just go on your skin and take the blood directly. No. Don't forget, the vector is the carrier of the parasite that gives you the malaria. The parasite, we call it the sporozoites. The sporozoites are found in the salivary glands of the mosquito vector, that is the female Anopheles mosquito. Now, when a mosquito vector lands on your skin, the first thing it does is that it lubricates your skin. Now, from that mouth part, that single proboscis, there are tubes. We have a tube that brings out the lubricating fluid that it uses in lubricating your skin. Please, I want to reiterate in this class, in this lecture, that the saliva of the mosquito that it is using to lubricate your skin contains the sporozoites that are coming from the salivary glands of the mosquito vector. So on your skin, there are microscopic sporozoites that you will not see with your naked eyes that the mosquito is using to lubricate your skin. Once it does that, another tube from the mouth pierces your skin. It pierces your skin. Then you now find another tube that dips into the pierced section of your skin to collect the blood meal. So you can see how adapted the mosquito vector is with respect to taking blood meal. It is well adapted, suited for it. And once it is done taking the blood meal, the hole created, to your eye, you may not see any hole, but yet there's a hole there. Now, the sporozoites, the parasites that were already in the saliva on your skin, will now gain entry through the hole into your blood circulatory pathway. Now you know how the parasite gets into your skin. Once inside your skin, the life cycle of the malaria parasite starts. Now, the life cycle of the malaria parasite, 2 stages occur in humans, while the last stage occurs in the body of the mosquito vector. So in this class, we shall be talking about the two stages that take place in the human body. For those in the medical world, they know the first stage as the pre-erythrocytic stage, what we refer to as the pre-erythrocytic stage. And the second stage, we refer to it as the erythrocytic stage. Let's zoom into the pre-erythrocytic stage. Thank God you are aware from this class how the sporozoites, the parasite, enter your blood. Let's take it from there. That is the beginning or the commencement of the pre-erythrocytic stage. Once the parasite enters your blood, it is carried by your blood circulation to your liver. Once they enter your liver, they feed on the liver cells, what we refer to as the parenchymal cells there in the liver. They begin to feed on it. And once they do this, they develop. And once they develop, they undergo binary fission, dividing. In the medical world, we refer to that process as schizogony, where they undergo binary fission and break into smaller parts. So that process is called schizogony. So the smaller parts they develop into are called schisms. Now, from there, they develop into another stage, the trophozoite stage, and the pre-erythrocytic merozoite stage. Now, once they get to this stage inside your liver, you can imagine the dangers, the harm that will be going on inside your liver. At this stage, you find the patient feeling the signs and symptoms, telling somebody that, it'd be like, say, I won't get malaria. Most times, as Nigerians, will make that kind of comment. For some of us who are aware of the life cycle of this parasite, when we hear comments like this, we know, this thing probably has started work in the liver stage, because when it gets to the other stage, you will not make that statement. You'll be like, say, I won't get malaria, because by that time, it would have been obvious that you have the malaria. You don't even need a native doctor or anybody to tell you. It will be so obvious. So once the pre-erythrocytic merozoites get to that stage in the liver, they leave the liver and they are taken into the red blood cells. Once they enter the red blood cells, that begins the commencement of the second stage of the life cycle inside the human body. Now, this second stage, we refer to it as the erythrocytic stage, or phase, as some people will call it. Now, once it enters your red blood cell, they begin again to feed on the red cells, especially the young one we refer to as the reticulocytes. Now, as they begin to do this, yet again, they begin to develop. That is why when you go to the hospital and they want to carry out a blood test for malaria parasite, the medical lab scientists, what they do is that they zoom into your red blood cell to begin to see at what stage the parasite is inside your red blood cells. And you find them coming up with results like ring-form trophozoite found, either 1+, 2+, or 3+, as the case may be, depending on what they are seeing. Now, once they feed on your red blood cells, they begin to develop, and once they develop, they undergo binary fission, what we call erythrocytic schizogony, developing into what we refer to as erythrocytic schisms. So these are smaller bits, and that is how they attack more of your red cells. And before you know it, at this stage, it is so obvious that you are sick. Yes, because at this stage you are shaking, you're sweating, and nobody needs to tell you. Even you will tell yourself, all is not well. If you don't want to die, you take yourself to the hospital. Now, once this same parasite, will want to develop into its final stage in your red blood cell. The final stage are the gametocytes. We have the male and female, though we don't call it male and female, we refer to them as a plus or minus, plus and minus. Yeah, the final stage is the sexual stages, the sexual stage, the gametocytes. Once it gets to this last stage, the cycle is complete in man. So if a mosquito vector should now come and land on your skin again at this stage you are sick. That does not stop the mosquito vector from taking a blood meal. So if the mosquito vector, the female Anopheles mosquito, lands on your skin at this stage that you are sick and takes a blood meal, the blood meal the vector will be taking is already polluted. But that is exactly what the vector wants. So the vector takes the blood meal. The blood the vector is taking contains the plus and minus. That's the gametocyte, the micro and macro gametocytes. That's what we call it. So once this blood meal enters the abdomen of the mosquito vector, that is where we now have the last stage of the life cycle of the malaria parasite. The last stage, if you had listened to my lecture earlier, I said the last stage occurs in the vector. 2 stages occur in humans, and the last stage occurs in the vector, which is the female Anopheles mosquito. But thank God for today's class, you now know the female Anopheles name. It is Anopheles gambiae. Once it gets to the stomach or the abdomen of the vector, the micro and macro gametocytes fuse. So there's a fusion leading to the formation of a zygote. It's like the mosquito gets pregnant. Please, I'm only borrowing that term, not that it actually gets pregnant. There's a fusion and a zygote is formed. And in order not to bore you with the parasitic jargons we normally do explain in this stage, all I will just tell you here is that the end product is the production of the sporozoites. Don't forget, we started with the sporozoites and we're ending with the sporozoites. So what is formed as a result of that fusion that occurs in the abdomen of the mosquito vector is the production of the sporozoites. And once the sporozoites are produced, they migrate from the abdomen to the salivary glands of the mosquito vector, now ready to reinfect more people. So now you know the life cycle. So you need to take the mosquito vector very, very serious. So this is a diagrammatic representation of all that I have explained. You have the mosquito vector, you can see the sporozoites, how they have entered the liver. I'm not going back, and from the liver, how they begin entering into the red blood cells, how they develop, and subsequently, how they get back to the mosquito vector. Now, the medical personnel are doing their best, and we must commend them. To be candid, they are doing a yeoman's job, trying to see how the malaria burden is reduced. But just like we have seen from WHO report, sub-Saharan Africa still needs to do more in order to reduce the malaria burden we are facing. So at this juncture, please, I want to reiterate the fact that even though we have so many anti-malarials out there, that are being used and so many other drugs that are being used in combination to handle the issue of malaria, we still have the burden with us. But one thing that is so striking that we must talk about, even though we try to avoid it, are the side effects. The side effects. There's no orthodox drugs to get for malaria, which we refer to as an anti-malaria, that you will see a leaflet and they tell you the numerous side effects. Side effects like nausea and vomiting, headache, dizziness, fatigue, malaise, muscular pain, which is referred to as myalgia, diarrhea, cough, in some cases. Now, we need to take all these ones into consideration. Now, and that is the reason why a lot of our people, we tend to go for the traditional herbs, because they have this general statement they make that our forefathers were not having side effects from the herbs they were taking, and they were getting good results. Yes, they were getting good results, even though the medical practitioners will not throw away that fact. The problem the medical practitioners have is the issue of dosage. They don't have any issue with the herbs, but the issue they have is with the issue of dosage. So in our traditional African culture, there are so many herbs that are bound, that are being used for the treatment of malaria. It works. I will not in this lecture say it does not work. They work. And we must commend our traditional medical practitioners. Thank God the medical uh, sector in Nigeria, the Ministry of Health in Nigeria is beginning to recognize that sector as a formidable sector and a major player in terms of healthcare delivery. So herbs like your neem leaf, your dogoyaro, the African yellow wood, even the bark that is taken from plants like mahogany, iroku, the senna plant, all of them play the siam weed, they all play major roles. In addition to so many, we have well over 50 documented plants that are being used in sub-Saharan Africa for the treatment of malaria. Now, just like I said in the opening of this lecture, this presentation, I represent a wonderful organization, even though I'm a medical microbiologist, as well as a HIV/AIDS consultant from the medical world. I represent a wonderful company that is harnessing, please let me use the right word, harnessing the superlative products we have in plants that our forefathers were used to. But in this case, they are harnessing it in such a manner that meets orthodox standard. Don't forget, in my earlier discourse, I said the medical practitioners are having issues with the issue of dosage. We don't have this issue here because those who are have developed this stem cell technology that is being used today globally, because that's where the world is heading to today, stem cell technology. And we have formidable medical practitioners, medical doctors, pharmacists, biochemists, botanists, microbiologists, all put together. A team of competent medical practitioners globally are working in this company to ensure that we have the right dosage using the right plants. And that is why today in Superlife, we have 3 wonderful products that is being used for the management and treatment of malaria. We have a product called the STC 30, which is Superlife Total Care 30. We have the Superlife Immune Care SIC, and we have the Super Root Coffee. To be candid, the products that are derived from these plants are purely plant-based. So using plant-based stem cell technology. And because if you look at the liver, for instance, where the parenchymal cells are being damaged as a result of the proliferations of the sporozoites, where they feed on the cells and develop. Patients who are on Superlife products, especially these 3, will do themselves lots of good. Why? Because since they are stem cell based, they have a way of proliferating. That's their job, proliferating new cells. For some of you who are familiar with the animals' stem cell technology, you know vividly how leukemia has been dealt a serious blow in the medical world as a result of the advent of animal stem cell technology. The same thing is happening now with malaria using the Superlife stem cell product. So those cells, the parenchymal cells, are proliferated so much so that the sporozoites finds it extremely difficult to go beyond that stage. And even when it does, yet again, the product has a way of helping the red cell reproduce itself. So the total volume of red cells attacked within the red cell stage, which we referred to earlier as the erythrocytic stage, is limited. So even if the person is having the parasite in his or her liver or red blood cells, the threshold is not large enough to bring the person down. Within a period of time, the person's immune response fights back, and the person is able to defeat the scourge. of the parasite. And that is why today a lot of people who are on Superlife are giving lots of testimonies. The number of times they've had to go to the hospital for treatment has drastically reduced, and some of them have not even been to the hospital for over 2 years, except when they are just going there to check their weight and check their blood pressure to ensure they are still fit. So once again, I want to appreciate all those who have listened to me attentively, while appreciating Superlife Nigeria for giving us this wonderful platform to educate not just you, but educating the world. Once again, I want to say a big thank you. I remain Dr. Egbe. But before I go, how do you prevent this disease? Please take note. You must know how to prevent yourself from it. 1, please do not allow stagnant waters around you because they love it. Yes, temperature, humidity favors their growth. Yes, because they undergo complete metamorphosis, so they need water environment. If you know you have to see, if you know you cannot handle it, please seek medical advice. Go to a medical doctor or a pharmacist, seek advice. Please don't go to quacks. I want to advise as much as possible, which we must not patronize quacks. No self-medication. Please, that is my advice. So I want to say thank you to all of you, and God bless you.